welcome to another edition of Mexico and the World, the international podcast, so that we can talk about issues that involve and concern Mexico and the whole world, and for the same reason, since it is an international podcast, I wanted to talk with you about what is happening in Ukraine. What we hope is that this conflict will be resolved soon because, as you know, there are many citizens from other countries who live in Ukraine and many Ukrainians living in other countries. And for the same reason, obviously, there are many Mexicans who live in Ukraine and many Ukrainians who are living in Mexico. So, we hope that it will be resolved soon and that the political leaders resolve this and manage to sit down at a negotiating table and reach an agreement. Because the last thing we want is for people to suffer, especially ordinary people, civilians, like that. So let's hope this ends soon so that so many families don't fall apart and people don't suffer so much. Let's change the subject because we don't just want to talk about sad things, and we are going to talk instead about something a little curious. This week we celebrate the World Rare Disease Day. That's how you know afterwards there are such specific cases that are so unique that these rare diseases that even for doctors, it is very difficult to diagnose their patients who have these rare diseases, which are generally syndromes, although there are also other diseases that, as I mentioned before, the difficult part is their diagnosis afterwards, and not just their diagnosis, but also their treatment, and that the patient can lead a life as normal as possible with these diseases. So let's hope that medicine continues to advance as it is doing by giant steps and can increasingly help these people who have these rare diseases. Now we are going to talk about a little more traditional issues. Since, as you know, Ash Wednesday is going to be celebrated. This represents the beginning of Lent and is commemorated to remind us when Jesus died on the cross for the salvation of men, and is celebrated, as you know, by Catholics around the world. So Mexico is not the exception, since Mexico is a mainly Catholic country. Mexicans, like the rest of the Catholics worldwide, are used to going to Mass on Ash Wednesday to also receive the imposition of ashes. It is also customary to eat fish that day, the same throughout Lent. But starting on Ash Wednesday, and this also leads us to the beginning of the carnival celebrations. You know, this is very colorful, very festive and very touristy, and it is celebrated in practically all countries. Like this is Mexico and the world, in Mexico. In several places like Mazatlan and Veracruz where they have their carnivals. Now, thanks to the development process that the coronavirus has brought, gave rise to the possibility of celebrating carnivals here in Mexico, and also what has been heard that in other countries of the world such as Brazil, they will allow them to be carried out despite the pandemic. Hopefully that this turns out well and that there are not many contagions and that people can go to enjoy the carnivals. Thank you very much for listening to us, and as always we want your comments, and that is why we are attentive to what you want to tell us on our social networks by email all together and with lowercase letters in podcast Mexico and the World at gmail.com. At Twitter at Mexico the Word, in the Facebook podcast Mexico and the Word, on YouTube channel Mexico and the World. Thank you for listening to us. I hope you are enjoying this podcast, and as we have mentioned, we hope that we can improve it so that you like it even more, and that is why your comments would help us a lot. And again, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in our next edition. Thank you, bye.